The game is at like 6:30 tonight, Mountain Time, which is 7:30 my time. The other game's 9:30. I'm trying to figure out in my head, based on landing time, I get there like at 12 o'clock. How am I going to organize food consumption and caffeine consumption? That's like a big one. I'm normally in bed at 10:30 my time. So I'm gonna figure out a way to nap or something. And then the kicker on that too is not only do you gotta nap and like be present, but you gotta wake up. Man, I get so groggy from some of these naps. So I'm really hoping I can sleep well on this plane coming up. Got plenty of time, by the way, gonna get to the airport. Are you one of those people? You might not be, I don't know. I'm kind of one of those people where when I was younger and traveled, as a younger man, I get to the airport so early, because like my dad was like that. So early. Now I've gotten to the airport progressively less early, especially if I don't check a bag. So I think the flight board's at like 6, and I'll get there like at 5:40. Actually, maybe a little earlier, but I wanted to get there at 5:50. My wife is like, don't do that. So I'll have a little bit of runway here at least. And thankfully these little Midwest airports are tiny. You can park and just walk right in. So I have a little bit of time to think about what I'm gonna do fatigue wise. I do fly first class, baby, on the flight there, which is so stupid. That's the only flight I could get is a first class flight. It's like a 35-minute flight from Moline to Chicago. And it cost me more money than I care for. It was the only flight that would guarantee me to get in to play these games. And I've had already scheduled these games. I have a videographer out there. I have a sponsor helping me do all this. And to then fall that short because of some snow in Denver would have been heartbreaking. Not just for my own basketball sake, but I have other people interested in my endeavors as well. And so, well, that's the cost of doing business, fam. All right, I'll talk to you later. So I had to eat my pregame meal because I'm playing that day, basically before I go on the airplane to an extent. Land, make sure I stay hydrated on the airplane because altitude, it's dry in Utah, easy to be dehydrated. Land, get as much food in me as possible, get caffeine in me. I'm not going to sleep because that makes me groggy. I'm going to eat food. Now I'm in altitude, which means it's going to be anaerobic. I'm not going to have which if we get into the science of it, the blood oxygen transportation ability that you would if you had adapted there. So I got to find a way. I brought a ton of Rice Krispie treats, a ton of water, a ton of Gatorade, things that are sugary, easily digestible. Why? Because I have 2 games and then 2 games the next day, basically 4 games in 16 hours. So first game kicks off. I don't know my teammates at all. They're great people, awesome people. So we get started, and look, I flew out. I'm going to be aggressive. I only have so many games to try and make a quote-unquote name for myself and do something positive that I'd rather be too aggressive and apologize, say, hey man, I gave it a try, than be passive and wonder about, man, what I could have been. So I came out, got used to the altitude, jogged around, got warmed up in the game itself, kind of got a feel for it, and then I started taking shots. I think this game I shot 29 points. I still shot very well from the field. Whenever I play, you never know who the defender is, how they're going to guard you, how your team plays. So, for example, if you're in a setting where you guys are setting a lot of down screens, a lot of ball movement, you don't have to go one-on-one quite a bit. You have to play the team game. But if your team naturally is a little bit more one-on-one based, if you're not comfortable going one-on-one to go get yourself a bucket, you're not going to have much to show. If you're always reliant on someone else getting you open or someone else passing you the ball, it's going to make it very difficult. Now, people who are going to watch this and complain, these are bad shots, this is selfish, this is whatever. That's how hoops works. I hate to break it to you. It is how a tournament works. When you're in a setting and you show up and you don't know players, I advise the players on my team as well to go and try and play your game and be aggressive. What you don't want is a bunch of people being overly passive and no one plays well and you're guaranteed to lose. That's just how it works. So be aggressive and play your game. The chips will fall where they fall. I have to go out here I flew out here. I have a camera guy coming to film me. I'm going to play aggressive. Duh. I'm going to go get myself some buckets. I have some passes. I didn't show you any passes. Too bad. It's a highlight reel of me scoring. That's just the way it goes. When I go up against the defender, there's a couple things I look for immediately. I look for how quickly they're willing to back up on any sort of shimmy or lift. Now, more like a dig. It's like if I go forward at them, or shimmy. Are they thinking, come close and close the gap because I might shoot it, or are they backing up? If I see them back up, I know I have a shot over and over and over again until they adjust to come forward. If they are someone who comes forward and gets aggressive into my hip on any move, I know I can short sell a move. The minute they step, I'm in a loaded position and I can drive by. It's that simple for me because I'm looking to get a jump shot off. Because if I can make physical contact with the person, a lot of times I didn't do the best job in this tournament. It's something I need to work on. I can bounce back out of it. So a really important counter for me is off of a physical first step is can I bounce back out and reset? Force them to have to re-engage me. It's almost like I want to create distance, close distance, create distance, close distance, create distance, close distance. And eventually on one of those, if I create a bunch of distance and they have to close really fast, now I have an angle to attack the hoop. Very simple, which is why you'll see a lot of the same moves over and over again because they're just simply counters. I like to go tween, and I'll pull the ball up, and if they don't bring a hand up, I have a pocket and I can shoot it. If they're quick to react or they try and jump me, I can throw it back between the legs. I can push it out and just go straight left, or I can spin back off and go downhill. Again, counter moves. My game isn't going to be take 7 dribbles, laterally dance, make someone fall over. Because I'm not necessarily trying to get to the hoop for a layup. I'm not the world's best finisher. That's okay. I shoot threes and create space off of three-pointers. It's like a foreign existence in today's game, especially at the high school level, because a lot of people who are high schoolers or even college, they don't see that anymore. When I played, there were guys like Marshall Henderson. There are guys like Jimmy Barron. There are guys like Jimmer Fredette. These are guys who are absolute just scorers, but off the shot. Pierre Jackson, another one. He did get to the hoop a little more, but he was absolutely a scorer. Jack Golke from Oakland that you saw. He's an extreme example of not necessarily one-on-one, but a tough shot maker and taker from the three-point line. J.R. Smith, if you're an NBA fan. Certain guys like that. Now, those are extreme versions because those are like professional scorers at the highest level. I am not a professional scorer at the highest level, but my existence is somewhat of a similar existence, but just at a lower level. The same way you might try and score like Shea or Luka or whoever, and you're not actually as good as Luka. Well, if you were as good as them, you'd be there. So you play like someone, but you don't play as good as that someone. So when people are like, it's not going to work at the next level, well, that's like saying, hey, this guy plays like Jalen Brunson, but it's not going to work at the next level. Well, the only way you can tell if that's going to work is you play at that next level, and you do dominate at your level and move your way up. Side note to the game is after the game, water, carbs, because I'm going to play again. Very proactive in my nutrition. I did a very poor job stretching and stuff. And that kind of actually bit me in the butt when I got back home because I was so tight in some areas. I actually kind of tweaked my hamstring a little bit. Nothing too concerning, but I think it could have been avoided if I had been more mindful of my physical state of readiness, like my movement and stuff. Because when you fly, you sit in a plane for a super long period of time, you play a bunch of games, and you fly back home. It's a lot of sitting post-working out. So I flew there, played 4 games in like 16 hours, finished that day off and flew home, and I didn't stretch enough. I almost was on the plane as long as I was not on the plane physically upright, if that makes sense. Because the altitude I knew was going to beat me up, and that's just what you get ready for. In that game, and some of these games too, I did get pretty tired. That first game, gosh, you feel like your hands start to cramp. Your vision starts to spin. It almost feels like you're going to pass out, but not in the same way like you're out of breath. Just like, I guess kind of out of breath, but just it hits you like a wave of something. It's hard to describe. It wasn't like I was, huffing for air and like winded or I was like, like bent over, fatigued. It was like I threw a pass in one of the games. It was a bounce pass. And it just like didn't get there. It did. We got the layup out of it, but I put so much effort and it barely got there. And one of the threes I shot it, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm so open, I'm going to shoot it. And as I released it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this might fall 4 feet short. It hit the rim, thankfully, but on the way up, all of a sudden, just like my ability totally fell off. The game one was fun. It was good. Get a feel for the games, the pace, and people are going to watch stuff and complain, oh, this isn't the best competition. These aren't pros. I don't care, man. You got to show up and do something. Show up and do something. Be about it. If you're going to play against people who aren't the world's best, go be your best. Stop asking for handouts. Like, you can just go play somewhere with a bunch of professional basketball players. If you're commenting, I don't get worked about the comments, but this is a narrative I see amongst kids who are trying to get better, which is why it frustrates me. I don't really care about the commentators, but they're always obsessed with trying to play against something else. And it's like, just play with what's in front of you. Who's in front of you? Show up and play hoops. And if you want to make a name for yourself, that's how it works. You got to go to places. And you got to do things. You don't always have the perfect plan. The best plan is one that's working, right? A lot of people can make wild plans to do X, Y, and Z to help their basketball career, but they don't act on none of it. If you don't act on anything, nothing's going to happen. You got to do something. So that's the game one recap. I'll give you guys game two. Game three was weird. We won game three. And the weirdest, it's just like they called a million fouls at both teams, and it wasn't very fun. I'll do a recap of that game. I haven't even looked at the highlights of it yet because to me, it was just like, this game kind of stunk for everybody's sake. I don't think anyone enjoyed it. And then game four was a fun one I'll talk about as well. So that's game one recap. I'll break down game two, and then we'll go into the first two games are like seeding and stuff. And then 3 and 4 were the tournament. So win or go home after that day. So appreciate y'all as always. Thanks for supporting me. As always, take care.